So I wanted to talk about a cool way I've been using Cursor lately. Cursor is great for agentic coding, vibe coding, autocomplete, and all that, but I wanted to talk about how I've used it to replace several apps in my flow, like note-taking apps, canvases, leaving notes everywhere, to-do items everywhere, that kind of thing. And this is a flow I've used with both Cursor and Claude, so if you're a Claude user, this also applies to you. I use it both for my personal stuff and at work. It's a great way of keeping track of stuff, and I've found that I'd rather have conversations about my action items rather than just keeping them in a list somewhere and then, maybe I do them and maybe I don't. So that's the gist of it. Let me walk you through it. So this is a repo I set up that kind of mirrors the setup I use in my personal and my work setup. This is available for anybody if you want to take a look, but let me walk you through it. So this is the Cursor Notes template. It features an inbox-based workflow. Essentially what you do is you drop Markdown files or PDF files or docx files into the inbox, and then it will process them for you. And by it, I mean Cursor will, if it needs to convert a PDF file or a docx file into a Markdown file, it will run a script, which I keep down here in the scripts area. So if I take a look in here, you see it has convert docx, convert PDF, and these are scripts that Cursor will run on your behalf in order to convert these types of files into Markdown files, which it can use and read and all that stuff. So once it's done the automatic file conversion, it then does smart categorization. It detects the content type. You see all these content types over here, like you have general, meetings, emails, documents, people, projects, ideas, business, personal. So it will take those and put them into date-based organization files and folders, structured by year month for easy navigation. And of course, since it's Markdown, it's compatible with Obsidian if you wanted to use it for that type of thing. I add front matter to the headings of all the Markdown files. That's part of the Cursor instructions that I have set up. So yeah, if you want, you can clone the repository, but otherwise I'm just going to keep walking you through this. Here we have the folder structure I just described to you, the naming convention, which is going to be in year, month, date format, so it stays in order. Down here we have our requirements. It only requires Cursor, Node, and you can use Obsidian if you want to view and edit the files. So really quick before we go any further, I do want to talk about something I use to make all of this a lot easier. It's called Granola. It's on granola.ai. And no, this is not sponsored or anything like that. I just really like this software. So what it does is if you have a meeting or a phone call, it will sit there and live transcribe the phone call as things are happening. If it's a Google Calendar meeting and it knows all the people who are invited, it will take note of all the names and it will live transcribe it for you. On top of that, you can talk to it while it's doing that. So if you got distracted or something like that, you can tell it to catch you up and it will tell you exactly what happened between the time you lost focus and when you got your focus back. So it's great for people like me who are constantly switching tasks. I can go back and see what was said if I wasn't paying attention. And it's keeping track of what was being said the entire time. One of the things that I'm kind of known for is taking crazy detailed notes like a stenographer while meetings are going on. And that's partially so that I stay focused for the entire duration of the meeting, but it's also so that I can keep track of all the action items or things that are going on. Now, this thing takes basically the same exact notes for me, and I don't have to do that anymore. So it's really saving on the carpal tunnel syndrome. And it gives me action items at the end in a nice summary, which I can then use with my Cursor Notes setup. So here it is inside Cursor in my notes repo up here. This is my actual notes repo that I use for my personal stuff. And I wanted to walk you through a couple of ways I use it. The first way that I use it is with this Cursor command. It's called process inbox, and it literally just processes the inbox. And I'll show you what that means in a second. But you can use either a Cursor command, or you can literally just come over here and type process inbox, and it'll handle it for you. When it processes the inbox, what it's going to do is read the README down here, in addition to the Cursor rules, right? So the Cursor rules say exactly how it should be treating each thing as each thing gets ingested in the inbox, where it should go, what the format should be, and that type of thing. There are a few details in here where I'm looking for my name. So if things are assigned to me or my team, I want to know about it. Of course, this is my personal repo, so that's less applicable. But on my team at work, I want to know, hey, was something specifically assigned to Scott? Great. then it will put it in my action item list. And it kind of goes on about that. Same thing about PDFs, docx files. You can add other file formats to this. You just have to write scripts for them, which Cursor can help you with. Beyond that, I'm talking about how Markdown files should be formatted, what kind of content triggers what kind of folder, and also correcting names, extracting dates, things like that. Ooh, a thing I recently did is I added story processing. So sometimes I like to write short stories. I have a bunch that I found on my hard drive. Now I'm kind of putting them in here and I'm organizing them by chapter. So it breaks them out by chapter. And now I can talk to Cursor about the stories I write. And down here we have the front matter setup that gets put at the top of all the Markdown files so that it can have metadata attached. And down here we have all the chapter breakouts, and it goes on like that all the way down. So this is kind of taken into consideration every time it's processing something. And then on top of that, we have the inbox README, which gives it even more detail about how to process things. So I did write up a sample here. I haven't actually tested this. Essentially, it's a fake meeting between me and a guy named Bob. We have a couple of action items. Bob had to send out an email. Scott had to buy a Christmas gift for Sarah. So I'm going to run the process inbox command. Let's see what it does. So here it's planning its next moves. I'm not using any of the higher end models right now, so it's just using whatever Cursor gives you out of the box, and it's going to think through it, compare it to all the rules. It does include all that stuff in the context, so if you wanted to reduce down the context a little bit because you want to spend less money or tokens, you should trim those down, and that's something I'm going to work on next. All right, there we go. So it automatically moved it into the meetings folder, into 2025. Today is the 23rd. So it prefixed the whole file with the date and then gave it a title. Pretty much kept the title I gave it. So I reviewed it. I'm going to keep that. And now if I want, I can just add that to the repo, send it up to GitHub. And I'll push that up. I'm not actually going to push it up right now because I don't want to keep this, but that's an example of how that would work. And then if I want, I can create a new prompt and I can ask Cursor, hey, what was the action item I got from the meeting with Bob? Let's see if it captures it. Okay, great. So I have to buy a Christmas gift for Sarah. That's the to-do I got from that meeting. And that's just one meeting. But imagine you have tons of meetings like I do, where you want to capture all the action items, their statuses, things like that. For that, I keep a specific to-dos file, which this thing kind of keeps up to date based on all the meetings I have. And it will read from that, and that's kind of like the source of truth for what my actual to-dos are. And of course, this is the one command I have in this repo, which is process inbox. Now at work, I have a bunch of other Cursor commands which help me. So let's say that there's a virtual stand-up. I record all those in my notes app, and then I can keep track of who's doing what and when, how fast each person is going, so their personal velocity. And if somebody needs help, I can reach out to them. Another thing I have is a Cursor command for high impact items that I've worked on during the week. So I can hand that to my boss and say, hey, here are the things that actually had impact over the week to the business. Another thing I can have it do is actually generate virtual stand-up notes. So I don't have to sit there and think, hey, what did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? Because instead of thinking about it only then, I'm thinking about it all the time because I'm having a constant conversation with Cursor. The other thing I love this thing for is checking on my high priority tasks for the day. So when I come in the morning, I say, hey, what are my top 3 priorities? At the end of the day, I can say, what are my top 3 priorities for tomorrow? So I'm kind of thinking about that. Friday, I'm saying, hey, what are my top 3 priorities for Monday? And what I end up doing is copying that and sending it to myself in Slack and scheduling it for 9 a.m. right when I get in. And that's been pretty helpful. Now at home, I don't really have all those meetings, but what I do have is people who do stuff around the house for me, like contractors. So we have gardeners who come and clean up. And so that's something where I want to keep track of the payments. I don't want to overpay them. I don't want to underpay them. I want to keep track of them and make sure that I know, hey, when did a price increase occur? That kind of thing. And in general, I just use it to keep track of what I need to do around the house. Now, you're probably wondering if this eats through a bunch of tokens, and it can, depending on how much you're working with it and putting into this thing, but you could probably get by with just the free plan or even the $20 a month plan with Cursor, and you'd be just fine. Now, the repo for this I'll put in the description of the video, so you can check it out if you want to. You can give it a try. Let me know what you think. I'd really be curious to hear what your thoughts are on this. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. But otherwise, happy holidays and happy coding.